Shalom, damn it! Welcome everyone, thank you so much for listening to me on this Dave's Gone By program. I'm so thankful to Dave for giving me this opportunity to go on the air and talk Yiddishkeit, and I could do it alone. I could sit here for hours and hours and just talk about being Jewish. I wouldn't care. But people would not want to listen. They would turn off the radio in about 16, 17 seconds. So, this is why I have guests. This is why I can talk. I can banter with people about the joys of Hebraic life. And I have a special guest today. I'm so excited. A mensch, a critic, and an author who has written a book called Beyond the Golden Door. Not to be confused with Beyond the Green Door, one of my personal favorite films. No, this is Beyond the Golden Door from Palgrave Books. But we're not going to have a grave conversation. No, it's going to be joyous with my good new friend, Julius Novick. Nice Jewish boy. Welcome, Bruchim Habayim, Julius, to the neighborhood.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Rabbi, and finally to hear your voice after having heard so much about you.
Oh, well, what have you heard? Good things, I hope.
Good things. Oh, only good things.
In a lecture that you gave, not fairly recently, I believe, yes, you quote W.E.B. Du Bois, who is, by the way, a Schwarzer, but a nice one, a good one that I am not afraid of.
Yeah.
And he talked about the concept of duality, two-ness,
yes,
as opposed to Jew-ness, which
yes,
I know very much about.
Yes.
How do you relate that to the way Jews are in the world and in your specialty, American theater?
Well,
yeah, hit you with an easy one.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
damn it.
That's a tough one because it goes to the center of what I'm writing about. Jews come to America, they come with ancient traditions of the complete way of life. They come mostly from communities where they live almost entirely among Jews, and they've not been permitted to assimilate into the culture of the surrounding community. But they get to America, and there's this impulse, this desire, both imposed upon them and coming from them, to be Americans. What does it mean to be an American? What does it mean to be a Jew? How much of being a Jew can you keep and still be an American? How much of being an American can you keep and still be a Jew? How are the two to be blended?
Kind of like a smoothie, but a kosher smoothie. That's what I'm thinking of the blending there.
Yeah.
I mean, is this something that you deal with in your own life?
I think every American Jew who's paying attention to himself feels that way in his own life. I mean, what customs do you cling to? What customs do you shed? What American values do you embrace? What do you reject? How do you combine them? And these are questions I think we all face. There's that impulse to embrace your ancestors and be like them, and there's the impulse to reject them and be something new. And the conflict of those impulses, the attempts to reconcile them, are what a lot of American drama is about. American drama written by Jews about Jews, which is the subject of my book.
Yes, this is why it's an exciting book for me. It's by a Jew, and it's about many Jews. People like Arthur Miller and Clifford Odets and Tony Kushner and folks like that, and Neil Simon and Donald Margulies and Jews like whoever.
You're paying attention.
Not really, but I did my research. I had Miriam Libby, my dear wife. She did a little bit of the reading, the actual thing for me. Yeah. So, but interestingly enough, apparently in the book, you're saying that for a lot of these Jewish playwrights, they're not so much writing about the ways of the old country and where they came from. It's more about who they are now and how they're blending into current modern American society.
Yes, because in most cases, the plays are about rebelling against the old country and where they came from. sometimes, where it gets really interesting, the parents have had their own rebellion, and the children are rebelling against them farther away from the traditions that the immigrant ancestors brought with them. And this creates a lot of tension, a lot of controversy. At one time, earlier in the 20th century, it created a kind of open battle. Lots of yelling over the family table, children who refused to accept values and behavior that was dear to their parents.
Sounds like my children. I have 21 and a half children, and oh my God, if one would listen to me, just one. As I tell you. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I did mean to interrupt, but I stopped.
But a good point. A good point to interrupt. So early in the century, in a play like The Jazz Singer, which was a play before it was a movie.
I did not know that.
Yeah, well, a few people do. It starred Georgie Jessel before Al Jolson made the movie. Jessel never forgave himself for turning down the movie.
Well, Georgie became Toastmaster General, which is also good for him.
Yeah, he got a consolation prize.
I can't imagine him singing like a cantor, though.
No, I can't either, but maybe...
But look at Jackie Mason. He talks and it's totally... And then he opens his mouth like... Totally different.
But at any rate, this is a play about a young man who's descendant from a long line of cantors, and his father wants him to be the next Cantor Rabinowitz. But he wants to be a jazz singer. He changes his name to Jack Robin, and he and his father are at open war.
But this comes also out of the Yiddish theater. I know I've seen plays like the Volksbühne, and this is the long-standing Yiddish boring theater that they do. So, but almost every show is like, oh, the son wants to do this, the girl wants to marry that, and then everybody cries and closes and and 2.5 hours later things are okay.
But the Yiddish theater is very close to what its audience was concerned with. But as I say, since the time of the flowering of Yiddish theater, and since The Jazz Singer, which was 1925, things have calmed down, things have gotten more complicated.
Wait, the play was 1925, the music...
the movie
was 28, I think.
Yes. Even in The Jazz Singer, part of the problem was that Jack Robin was still Jakey Rabinowitz at the same time. He says to his mother that wherever he went in those 5 years he's been gone since his father threw him out of the house, he always kept his little prayer book. So he wants to be attached to Yiddishkeit while separating himself from it. And there you have the duality. But the side of him that wants to hold on to Yiddishkeit is represented by his father. So the battle gets open, has a kind of intensity it doesn't have in later years, when the sons, no matter how much trouble they give their parents, are usually less deeply different from their parents than the second generation in America was to the immigrant generation. So here you have Jack Robin torn when his father is ill and dying. Should he sing in the synagogue as his father wishes, or should he, that same Erev Yom Kippur night, open on Broadway in the show that would make him a star? So he really has to choose this or that. He's got to define himself ultimately. What is it going to be? Cole Nidre or Cole Porter?
This happened to me one time. It was Yom Kippur. I had tickets through TDF. And I was going to see a show, but it was Yom Kippur.
Sure.
What do I do? What did I do? Very simple. I made a phone call. I had someone sit in the theater, and so I listened to Yom Kippur through the Broadway show through the earphones while I was davening. It was a bad show too. It was like the second Oba with a lot of Brazilian. I missed the dancing. I love Oba and that Brazilian dancing, but on the phone it loses everything.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah.
But, so you were an example of the
I'm an
divided
example
soul.
of nothing.
Well, you are the epitome, perhaps. You are the paragon
damn it, yes.
of that self-division, that divided soul, that two-ness.
That separated foreskinness is what I like to put it on.
Yeah, okay, yeah. This is Julius Novick talking to you on Dave's Gone By on WGBB in Freeport, Long Island.
We're talking with Julius Novick, the author. Is it Julius or Jay that should be calling?
Jay in conversation, but the book says Julius. That's my official name.
If you're Googling, if you're Amazoning, and you want to find the book,
Julius
Novick.
Julius all the time.
Novick, Palgrave Studies in Theater and Performance History Books. How can they put that on a damn binder? I don't know. Jewish American drama and Jewish American experience, which you can't begin to talk about unless you bring up the elephant in the room, which is Death of a Salesman, the play by Arthur Miller. Which is that you mentioned, of course, the jazz singer as being a very important moment in codifying that experience. But Death of a Salesman, there's something about it, even though I'm sure half the people who saw it didn't know it was essentially a Jewish play.
Well, this has been the subject of controversy since the play was new. This is something I get a lot of questions about. There is nothing in the play to indicate specifically that Willie and his family are Jewish. When the play is done with Irish actors, the Road Company had starred Thomas Mitchell and Kevin McCarthy, and it looked like an Irish play, or a play about Irish Americans. And again, when Brian Dennehy did it in New York, it seemed to be a play about Irish Americans.
Or even Lee J. Cobb in the movies. I mean, you don't think Lee J. Cobb singing davening. It doesn't eating matzah on Passover. I don't see him doing this.
Well, he's really Lee Jacobs underneath.
Oh, well, but who knew? I did not know.
Yeah, well.
Did you see the Dustin Hoffman on Broadway when he did it?
Yeah, he was, I think, a lot of people think the most Jewish of performer, not necessarily the most Jewish in his private life, but the one who represented Willie as most Jewish. Now,
was that right to do, or was that just grafting already more than is on the play?
Well, I think that's very much within the bounds of interpretation. It doesn't distort the play. It takes it in a direction that the play allows. One critic says that the real question is not, is Willie Loman Jewish, but could Willie Loman be Jewish? And I find it much more interesting because that way you don't have to say yes or no. You don't have to accept or reject this or that way of doing the play. There is nothing in the play that says specifically that he was Jewish, that Willie was Jewish.
If anything, he seems almost anti-Semitic, the way he reacts to Bernard and his family.
Yeah.
Is this Irish guy? Who are these Jews who are up and coming? He's not like us.
Yeah, but this is not unknown among Jews, the desire to separate yourself from the stereotype. But from the Bernard who studies hard and is a good boy versus Biff and Happy. One is an athlete and the other is a lecher. Well, they're both lechers, actually.
Something I can certainly identify with, yes.
Willie encourages them to steal, to be strong, to be good-looking. The happiest day of his life is when Biff gets to play football. Sorry, wrong sport. You can see what a Jew I am.
At least it wasn't chess.
Yes. Yeah, right. To play football in Ebbets Field, Willie is almost delirious with joy. And you can interpret that as here is somebody running away from the stereotype that Charlie and Bernard are willing to embrace.
Right, because it's a physical thing with the muscles and the men in the locker room, which it goes to another place, but I won't go there. I have to say, I loved Brian Dennehy. I think it works overtly Jewish and also covertly Jewish. And I also love the Dustin Hoffman so much, I once stopped Dustin Hoffman on the street and I told him I loved his Willie. And he ran away from me. I don't know what his problem
was. A modest man.
No, yes. Yep. Continue, please.
Yeah, at any rate, the play, starting in 1949 when it was new, the play was attacked on the grounds that it really is a Jewish play, and Miller is trying to hide his own Jewishness by taking out all the possible Jewish references in order to achieve a universality that the admirers of the play think is successfully achieved, but the detractors say is an act of dishonesty, of phoniness. One critic went to see Teufel the Salesman, Joseph Bulloff's version in Yiddish in Brooklyn, and said, "This is the real play. Death of a Salesman is only the translation into English."
But maybe it was the play Arthur Miller's father would have written in the old country, but not the play that Arthur Miller, American, needed to write to not only to be a success, but to make it a modern American play and not something yanked still from the old country in Yiddish.
Yeah, exactly. He's got to write the kind of play that he feels and that he knows about. But at any rate, it got really personal, some of these attacks, by people like Mary McCarthy, who is not otherwise known as an expert on Yiddishkeit.
When I think of Jews, I do not think Mary McCarthy.
All right. Well, there's a reason for that.
I think bottles of whiskey in the closet, perhaps, but no.
But at any rate, she pointed to phrases like attention must be paid to such a person. That this is, in some measure, a Yiddish idiom. This is the way those words and that thought would be arranged in Yiddish, and that therefore Miller is faking it to try to hide it. And there's also some implication, Miller defends himself against this in his autobiography, that his name really wasn't Miller, that it was somebody else, that it was something else rather, whereas Miller says, as far back as he knew, the name was Miller.
Right. Ellis Island. They probably had a millwork stone somewhere or something like that.
Could very well be. But at any rate, people have been arguing about this ever since. Is Willie really Jewish? And finally, in 1950,
the play was written in
1999,
the
50th anniversary, that's where the 50 got in there, the 50th anniversary of the play, a special edition is published with a preface by Miller that says that Willie and his family were Jews, but like other Jews, were totally separated from the Jewish community, from Jewish values, from anything Jewish that could support, that could guide that family. So Willie, there's a vacuum there. Willie is looking for something to hold on to. He's looking for American values to tell him what kind of man he's supposed to be. And unfortunately, the values he chose are the American values, and nobody can deny that it is to a large extent an American value of acquisition, be a big shot, compete, get in front of the other guy. His brother Ben, whom he idolizes, says to his son Biff, "Never fight fair with a stranger, boy. You'll never get out of the jungle that way." And that kind of unscrupulous strength is what Willie aspires after, but the poor man is really a softy. He wants to be loved. The mention of Death of a Salesman in the play comes when Willie talks about this salesman who dies in his slippers on the New York, New Haven, and Hartford Railroad on his way to sell the goods, and how everybody came to his funeral because the man was so loved. And Willie is so confused by these values that really aren't his, that he thinks that the way to be loved is to be a big shot. The way to be loved, to be loved, to be American,
works
is
for me.
To be a boss. Well, mazel tov. If it works for you, it works for you. It evidently worked for Uncle Ben, but it doesn't work for Willie. He's not that kind of guy.
Wow.
So if Miller admits that after 50 years, finally, says, yes, these people are Jewish, and part of the point of the play, what the play is about, is that they are Jews separated from Judaism, who haven't found anything to replace it in America. And that's what a lot of Jewish American plays are about. The Jewish part of this two-ness, this dividedness, has been suppressed, leaving a kind of hole, leaving a quest for something to replace it, a desire to be American. But what does it mean to be an American?
Well, you get cable, which is good. Cable is nice.
Yeah, cable is very nice.
Especially if you can hook it so you get a couple of free channels. And
exactly. And that's the equivalent of what cable is a metaphor for, is what a lot of people in these plays, and of course in real life, since the plays are about real life, a lot of these people in the plays they want all the cable they can get. In some cases, in a play like The 10th Man, here is this young man. He is lousy with cable. He's a successful lawyer. He's successful with women. He's got a wife and 2 children and a house in Scarsdale that's right next to the golf course. You can't have more cable than that. He's miserable.
Sounds like the story of my life, damn it. Except for the golf course.
No, you've done better with your life than that. Believe me.
Oh, well.
I don't know you very well, but I know you well enough to know that.
And in our concluding moments with Jay, I'm going to call him Jay. Jay, no, because he's so entrancing with his ideas and his concepts about Jews in modern America and how they are theatrically presented. But how are you doing in your life? Tell us a little about you.
Okay, that's an interesting question. Well, I've been working on this book for many years, and just recently I discovered that I wrote it to show my father that I really was a good Jew, even though I didn't go to shul, still don't. You'll forgive me.
Yeah, come to my shul, you'll never go again.
Yeah, I'm sure you've come up against this before in your professional life. Of course, my father didn't go to shul either. But my father was so divided between the desire to be an up-to-date American. I don't know whether I should be telling family secrets on the radio.
Tell.
Between being an up-to-date American and being a pious, frum Jew like his very strong mother wanted him to be. And that caused a lot of inconsistency in his life, and he felt that I was not a good enough Jew. So the book is about how the things that I do, the things that I care about, the theater, being a writer, studying, are ways of being Jewish, are expressions that being Jewish is important to me. So it's very close to my life. It's very close to my conflicted feelings of rejection and yearning. When I quoted the sociologist who said that, talked about people, not just Jews, being torn between the desire to embrace their ancestors and the desire to reject their ancestors. The better I understand myself, the more I realize how deep that conflict runs in me. I'm helped to understand that by seeing it on stage in these remarkable plays in so many ways, with so many different negotiations, so many different balancing of the Jew and the American within one person, that I understand myself better through them, and it's my way of practicing Judaism.
Wow. Well, I practice Judaism in my way. You would do it in your way. and all the people who are listening who happen to be Jewish are doing. That's what it's all about.
No.
As long as you're a good person, as long as you give tzedakah to my shul every once in a while, I don't care. You could go kill people. If you give me a little tzedakah, I'm happy. I'll say a prayer. So,
I'm with you on that, but a lot of people aren't.
Well, I realized it. Did your tata, is your papa going to be able to read the book, or did he go?
No, he's passed on.
Oh,
but
sorry.
you know, when I say I wrote it for my father, I wrote it for my father inside me. We all carry around our parents.
more than you know. I've got a joke there, but I won't make it because I'm just so overcome with joy and with all these emotions and these things that are in my head, and they're going to be even more in my head and yours, ladies and gentlemen, if you get the book Beyond the Golden Door, Jewish American Drama and the Jewish American Experience by, I threw in an extra the there, and thank you for not correcting
That's all right.
me.
You can have all of those you like.
Okay, it's by Julius Novick. Okay. Available from the Palgrave Books, which is a Macmillan imprint.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about some pishach little thing here. This is real. But why such tiny print? I can barely read the damn thing. The hell is what? They couldn't spring for a few extra pages? Look, I can't even look at this.
Well,
yes.
Believe me, Rabbi, I'm with you on that one.
I hope it sells so many copies they have to do a paperback with big type.
Yes. The paperback should be out within a year. And then
the CD thing where people can listen in the cars.
That's not in the cards yet, but I hope so. That'd be nice.
And then the movie. And then
the movie.
Can I star as you? I can be a good conflicted Jew. Can I play Julius Novick in the movie of Beyond the Golden Door?
Well, I thought I would play Julius Novick, but you can play Rabbi Sol Solomon.
See, I tried to be up for the role of playing Marilyn Chambers in Beyond the Green Door, but I didn't look right in the wig, and they came at me and they told me and there was no hole there, so it
you got to say that they had a point there.
They did, and you have so many points to making your wonderful book. I want to thank you, beloved, blessed J. Julius the Novick. Thank you so much,
and thank you, Rabbi. It's been a great pleasure.